welcome back, everyone, to the fourth episode of the IceBergs Hockey Podcast. My name is Joey Rittenberg.
I'm Jared Rotenberg.
And we bring to you the episode titled Oil Spilled. Now, we have a lot to get into as it's been like over 2 weeks since our last podcast episode. Jared and I have been very busy working some night shifts in the past 2 weeks.
I was at a wedding last weekend.
He was at a wedding last weekend. You can catch it on his TikTok if you don't believe him. He looked pretty dapper, I won't lie.
Pretty dapper. Just like a little dapper.
But yeah, we have a lot to dive into. I mean, Game 3 just unfolded before us last night in oil country. Not the result Edmonton wanted. Definitely the result that Florida wanted. Let me tell you, so far this has been a dominant series by the Panthers, which I think in some ways was to be expected just because of how hard the Eastern Conference truly has been. And the battles they've had to sort of endure to get there. You could say the same for Edmonton, but I think that it comes down to who's able to take, I guess, 3 or 4 given games in order to win the Stanley Cup. So we're going to dive right into it. Jared, I think we're going to start off with the conference finals rundown. So
Sounds
our
like
picks versus the end result. So why don't you take it away? You can just talk a little bit about your picks, what went well, what didn't.
Yeah, and more what didn't go well, but let's get into that. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the fact that leading up to the conference finals, me and Joey were kind of firing on all cylinders based on our second round predictions. We went 3 for 4 in terms of agreeing on all of our picks. We went 4 for 4. We agreed on all of our picks, but we went 3 for 4 in terms of being correct. So we had we correctly picked it every single series except for Edmonton over Vancouver. We had Vancouver winning that series, but every other series we were correct on. We picked Dallas over Colorado. We picked the Rangers over Carolina. And then we picked Florida over Boston. So we were feeling pretty good heading into the conference finals. And then it happened. So I have been saying all season long, dating back to the preseason, that the Dallas Stars are my pick to win the Stanley Cup. They were able to take out the reigning Stanley Cup champions in the first round, the Vegas Golden Knights. Then they were able to take out the Colorado Avalanche, the 2022 Stanley Cup champions in the second round. I looked at that and I was like, how will the Edmonton Oilers be the team that knocks off the Dallas Stars? Colorado is better than Edmonton. Vegas is significantly better than Edmonton. I was like, this is easily Dallas's easiest series. How are they going to fall to the Edmonton Oilers? And part of kind of my rationale for that pick, which funny enough, even though I ended up, of course, being wrong, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. I had the Dallas Stars winning that series in 6, but I don't actually regret a lot of what I said heading in. I acknowledge that Edmonton is a better team in terms of the top 6. They are. That's fact. I acknowledge that Edmonton is a better team in terms of the special teams, especially the power play. These are all things that are true, and I acknowledge, and they're pure fact. I also, which ended up being a huge factor in the series, I said that the Edmonton Oilers are admittedly a faster team than the Dallas Stars. And sure enough, I'd say at the end of the day, speed ended up being the difference maker. But I argued that Dallas is a better team defensively, and I know people are going to bring up stats to say that, statistically, Edmonton was actually playing better defensively. But what I mean when I say they're a better defensive team, it's more a playing style, right? Edmonton is a quick, run-and-gun, speedy style team, whereas the Dallas Stars are a slow, methodical, they shut things down, they wear you down, they are a more defensive-heavy team. So Dallas is a more defensively, responsible structure. I think they're a more defensive team in terms of the way they play. But the main thing is their bottom 6 scoring. And this is something like I'll get into why I still don't regret the fact that I predicted the Dallas Stars to win the series. If you look at right now, or more importantly, let's look at what the stats said following the conference final series. Once the Edmonton Oilers won that conference finals in Game 6, the Edmonton Oilers in the entirety of the Stanley Cup playoffs at that point only had compiled 17 total points from their bottom 6. So that doesn't include their top 6, and it doesn't include their defensive core, because obviously Evan Bouchard has been really good. But looking purely at those 6 players, they are bottom 6 in terms of the forward core. They only had a total of 17 points. Look at the Dallas Stars. They had a total of 52 points. Now, in terms of who was healthy, it's actually 51 because Ty Dellandrea got injured because 50 at one point. But whether 51 or 52, the Dallas Stars, without question, like that is a pure fact. The Dallas Stars are a deeper team offensively. They have way more bottom six scoring. But that isn't the reason why they were able to win the series. Like Edmonton didn't win the series because they were better in terms of the bottom six scoring. So when people are like, haha, you were wrong, I'm like, well, no, my analysis wasn't wrong. Yes, I was wrong on the team I picked. I obviously picked Edmonton to lose the series. I was wrong on that. But like Dallas is objectively a deeper team offensively. But at the end of the day, that top six and the speed ended up being the difference maker. So of course I was wrong on that one. And me and Joey both picked the Dallas Stars to win that series. So we both ended up being incorrect there. None of us predicted the Edmonton Oilers or a Canadian team to represent, Canada in that Stanley Cup Finals. And then moving over the other side, and this was an interesting series between between the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers. Now, a little sip of water there. In the preseason, I predicted my Stanley Cup Finals to be the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Dallas Stars. But as soon as we got in and around the All-Star break, I changed my tune on that and I switched it to say it was going to be the New York Rangers versus the Dallas Stars. I had bets riding on that. I had a chance to earn a lot of money riding on that Stanley Cup Finals to end up being the New York Rangers versus the Dallas Stars. I got so close. And then like we kind of discussed, if you go back and watch our most recent episode before this one, we went at length talking about what's going to happen in this New York Rangers versus Florida Panthers series. And both of us kind of agreed, even though Joey picked the New York Rangers to lose the series in 7, like she picked the Florida Panthers to win in 7. I picked the Rangers to win in 7. So we ended up disagreeing on the teams, but our analysis was very similar. We acknowledged that New York is a better built team on paper, but that Florida Panthers utilize a more scary, quick, and heavy, playing style. And we both agreed with this. I argued that at the end of the day, Igor Shesterkin was going to be able to outmatch Sergei Bobrovsky. That didn't end up happening, and that's why obviously Florida ended up winning. But these are two series where I would argue I was wrong on the team. I mean, I went 0 for 2 in my conference finals, but I don't actually regret a lot of my analysis. I think I was pretty fair on everything I said. Like I said, yes, Florida does play a scarier and more physical playing style. But I was like, at the end of the day, New York is a better top six and New York has better goaltending. I thought that would be the difference maker. But Florida is the real deal. Like Florida is so scary, and we're seeing it now in the Stanley Cup Finals. They wear you down. They have the fastest forecheck in the league. They don't give you an inch. They constantly are breathing down your neck and attacking. And that's why at the end of the day, the Florida Panthers were able to prove me wrong. They are the reason I lost out on making quite a bit of money, because Florida's the real deal. Like they are such a terrifying team. And, I went 0 for 2 on the conference finals. Joey went 1 for 2 because she had the Florida Panthers winning, but she did also agree with me on the Dallas Stars there. None of us had confidence in these guys. And that takes us on to the Stanley Cup Finals. Florida Panthers, Edmonton Oilers, and Joey, I'm going to let you take it away now because I've yapped for a little bit.
Do you want me to talk about...
You could unveil what our predictions were heading in. Remember, so I mentioned it. I had a wedding last weekend, so I wasn't able to record last weekend. And we, in order to ensure that we weren't, doing any funny business and only saying our prediction, like
guys, we have the receipts. We had
made sure we had the receipts just so it wasn't like, oh yeah, Edmonton's leading the series. I'm just gonna say, yep, I always had Edmonton. Like we made sure no matter what
we're gonna insert a photo right now, and it's just gonna hang out there for a minute. So Jared and I texted, and we both. If I remember correctly, we both did pick Florida.
We both had Florida winning the finals.
I always do this. I teeter a bit, but to be fair, you made me pick. You were just kind of like, okay, but you can't say maybe 6, maybe 7, maybe 5.
Because I want it to be a locked in, that's your prediction. I want to be able to say right and wrong. I don't want, you kind of hinted.
Did I end up saying in 6?
You ended up, actually, I think you kind of left it at 6 or 7, and then I was saying, I have to go.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that was, we both did pick Florida, and evidently those picks have kind of proven to be right. We've had some good looks in the first 3 games. But I mean, to start off, those are the picks. I mean, we can dive into why we picked them. And I think, Jared, you honestly gave a really great explanation as to why Florida did end up beating out New York. And I would say those are along the same lines as to why they've been able to beat out the Oilers. Like,
Absolutely.
And I was showering before this, and I was standing in the shower, and I was like, you know what? Like, I hate to be that person, but you look at every single pro sports team that wins, the main guys, the guys you pay the money for, the guys who are good, the guys who score points like McDavid and Draisaitl did all season, where have they been? They like have left the chat. Like McDavid, to be fair, he had 2 points last night. He had 2 assists last night. However, like I'm sorry, like they were close, but when you have guys like Broberg and like Warren Fogle, like really depth guys scoring, you need that extra support from your big guys, and that has not been happening. And I mean, you can tell that like the media has been eating them alive. Like McDavid, even last night, he got asked a question and he was like, "How do you want me to answer that?" Like it was just you can tell they're like visibly frustrated with themselves. It's the same for Draisaitl. Like I think they're frustrated with the fact that it hasn't been going the way they wanted to. I also think they're just being seriously outcoached, like, and out-goalied. Yep. I think it's not even a question. I mean, I'm the biggest Paul Maurice stan. So like, I mean, I'm a little biased in that case, and Knobloch is
Paul Maurice, former Leafs coach.
And Knobloch is a relative, like he's a new coach, like he's fresh out the water. So I mean, for him, this is his first go at anything like this on such a big stage. So I mean, I think that's proving well. And again, just to sort of touch on the whole goalie situation, I mean, Jared has a whole sticky prepped on why he thinks Sergei Bobrovsky shouldn't win the Conn Smythe.
I'll get into that.
We'll get into it, but he really truly, like, I mean, last night's game heading into the third period, he had only allowed 2 goals in 3 games in a cup final. that's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous stat. Like that easily.
He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been a brick wall.
He's a 984 in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's a save percentage in the Cup.
That's crazy. That's like,
it's ridiculous. It is the most ridiculous play in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think, dating back to the 80s.
Yeah. So I mean, fantastic. Like the goalie situation has played huge for them, and I think it's interesting because when you're talking about the New York Florida series, you talk about how Florida actually doesn't have as much depth as a lot of the teams going into the conference
more
finals.
Than Edmonton, though.
More than Edmonton, but their depth has really they've stepped up. You've got like not random, but you've got guys from the bottom 6 scoring. Like it's great for them. Yeah. I mean, it's proven to kind of win them some games. Something I saw really interesting. I don't know where it was, but it was the fact that now Edmonton has to focus on winning 1 game and not 4, because if they're,
I think that's like, standard hockey talk. It's always 1 game at a time. Like,
but in all seriousness, they really have this. If they don't deliver, then it's done.
Yeah,
and
that's how they have to look at it. If they bog themselves down and we now need to win 4 straight in order to win the Stanley Cup, you're right. Like that is so much extra mental baggage. So they have to. And any good coach will say that. Like Chris Knobloch isn't earning his paycheck if he doesn't say, "Hey guys, all we need to focus on is winning our next game in Edmonton. All we got to do, let's make it through 1 series and we'll go from there." That is what he has to do. But yeah, at some point, I mean, it goes back to the point that I don't even blame the heads. Like you're saying, where's McDavid? Where's Draisaitl? I think the Oilers are built in a manner where they needed their superstars to play like superstars because they have no counter option. They have no depth. They have no backup. They are built in a way where they have their top guys. They have the best top 6 in the entire NHL. But if their top 6 gets shut down, they just have no answer. I mean, I'm going to bring up the stat again. Compared to the Dallas Stars with a difference of depth scoring, specifically in the Western Conference Finals, it was actually Edmonton's best bottom 6 scoring series. It was Edmonton had 9 bottom 6 points compared to Dallas's 16. But even that, they got outmatched in terms of the bottom 6. And then if you look again, I'm going to bring it up in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. Coming into the Stanley Cup Finals, it was a difference of 52 compared to it was 52 compared to 16. So it's ridiculous. They have no bottom 6 scoring. Even if you compare it to Florida Florida isn't the best team in terms of bottom six depth. They aren't quite where Dallas is. Albeit with Dallas, I mean, it is a factor that they have their two leading scorers in Wyatt Johnston and Jamie Benn both play in their bottom six. They're both a third line winger and center. So that does explain that. But the Florida Panthers still have 31 points generated from their bottom six compared to Edmonton's 16 at this point. Like, or 17 rather. Like, the Oilers, it was always going to be, if their superstars didn't step up and play like superstars, they had no option because their defensive core isn't very good. Especially it's playing well. Statistically, they have been a good team defensively. But it doesn't have that much personnel. When you have guys like Cody Ceci and Darnell Nurse in your defensive core, you can't call yourself a good defensive core overall. They have good defensive players. I mean, Evan Bouchard has been fantastic, at least offensively. And then Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner rose to the occasion against Jake Ottinger in the conference finals and played a very good series there. But he's not a great goalie. He certainly doesn't have much on Sergei Bobrovsky or the other top-tier goalies in the entire NHL. It was always going to be, if their top guys didn't show up, they didn't have an option. And
it was going to be a shootout. It was going to just be about scoring the opponent.
And I don't really blame Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for that. When it comes to Connor McDavid, I mean, Alexander Barkov has absolutely played the role as the best defensive center in the entire NHL. Like, he has Leafs fans complain about Philip Deneau in that Montreal series, how good he was at shutting down Austin Matthews. We were looking at the Walmart Alexander Barkov. Now they are playing that Alexander Barkov, the best defensive center in the entire NHL, and McDavid can't do anything. Like, Barkov is so good. He's such a good shutdown player.
He's arguably, I think we're watching one of the best two-way forwards in the game. Like, he's
one of might even be a stretch. He is the best two-way center.
So good. He's such a pleasure to watch, like, genuinely. But okay, let's hold on. So last night, midway through the game, before the, I think, second or third goal was scored, I sent a stat over to Jared, and it was that Darnell Nurse, through the playoffs, had a plus minus of minus 16. That is, he was about to take over. If he had been on the ice and had gone to minus 17, he would have had the worst plus minus in playoff history.
Yeah, which was on pace to break a record until he was on the ice for that.
And it's not a good record. And for a cup final, as a defenseman, as a quote unquote top defenseman, highest paid defenseman, like that, it's a joke. Like, it's
ridiculous.
You can't have that. So I sent that over, and then he ended up being on the ice for the Warren Fogle goal last night and went back down to minus 15. So good for him. But
I just double checked something. Darnell Nurse currently gets paid more money in his average annual value than Cale Makar. Darnell Nurse makes $925, and Cale Makar makes $9 million on the dot.
Damn,
it's a joke.
Cale Makar's being done dirty.
Ken Holland deserves so much blame for why the Oilers are so bad. Like, I have said this for years. I've had a big gripe with the Edmonton Oilers. And funny, like we mentioned, heading into the series, like what I locked in as my final prediction, what I made on my TikTok video, like my final prediction heading into the series, I said it was going to be Florida in 6. But before the Western Conference Finals was over, and remember, I was big banging the drum that somehow, some way, the Dallas Stars were going to find a way to win this series just because I believed in them the entire way. And once, I think it was the day I made this tweet was the day that the Florida Panthers won their series against the New York Rangers. And I said, if it ends up being Dallas versus Florida, the Dallas Stars would beat the Florida Panthers in 7. That was my prediction. But on that date, when I made this tweet, and again, I have the receipts. We could put it up in an image. You could go look at my Twitter and find these receipts. They're up there. I said that the Florida Panthers, and I used this word in all caps, the Florida Panthers will murder the Edmonton Oilers in 5 was my initial prediction. Now, I actually really was impressed with the way that the Edmonton Oilers stepped up.
They turned it around last night.
Against the Dallas. No, not even last night. Like, against the Dallas. Okay. I'm talking about heading into the series, like, what made me change my tune from the initial Florida in 5 to now saying Florida in 6. And yes, obviously, it's only a difference of one game. But I feel like when you get to the Stanley Cup Finals, like, it's a big difference between losing in 6 and losing in 5. That is a big difference in how well you hung around in the series. And the reason I eventually, changed my tune and said Edmonton could win that one extra game is because Edmonton, even though, yes, it was never that they turned around and had amazing depth scoring, but Stuart Skinner actually looked like he started playing really well. Like he at least rivaled Jake Ottinger pretty well, who going into that series, I said Ottinger was a lot better. So goaltending looked like maybe it was starting to turn around a little bit. Bottom six scoring wasn't great. It's definitely not the Oilers' strength, but it was their best series in terms of bottom six scoring. Yeah. I mean, out of the 17 bottom 6 points that they've compiled in the entire playoffs so far, 9 of them came from just the Western Conference Finals alone. Like, that is saying something. So it actually looked like they gained a lot of confidence. I kind of liked it was Joey. You were mentioning this on our last podcast about kind of the almost like the Raptors effect, where it's like all of Canada's rallying behind them. And I was like, you know what? It's still not enough for me to say that a team built in the flawed manner that Edmonton is will be able to rival one of the scariest, most deadly teams in the entire NHL. Like, I still didn't say that the Oilers would be able to take out Florida, but I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe 5 was a little bit harsh. Maybe they'll win that extra game. They could win 2 and force it to 6. But no, what we've seen so far is that this is a team that is just not built to win a Stanley Cup. And that's horrible because I want Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, especially Connor McDavid, a guy that will go down as a Mount Rushmore, like top player in the NHL. If he doesn't win a Stanley Cup, I mean, that's just such a shame for his legacy. But I know a new GM, even if they win the Stanley Cup, it's already pretty locked in. A new GM is coming in, like Ken Holland's done. But the way he built this team is horrible.
It's very flawed.
It's a very flawed roster. And I don't blame the Stars for getting shut down because in any properly built Stanley Cup caliber team, it's okay, you shut down their first line. Okay, the second line will step up. Oh, you shut down that second line? Well, the third line's there. Like, you should be able to run 4 lines pretty consistently. And they just weren't able to. Like, and I know the series isn't done, but you look at how they're matched up against Florida. Florida's able to shut them down, bog them down. As I mentioned before, Florida doesn't play the same defensive style as like a Toronto or a Tampa. Toronto and Tampa kind of sit back, let you dilly-dally, and then eventually, especially Tampa, not so much Toronto, they kind of eventually trust either their goaltender to make that big save, or they trust their defensive ability at the end of the day to make the big shot block. Well, Florida doesn't play like that. They don't even let you get set up in the zone. They just consistently breathe down your neck and attack you. And Florida is showing that they aren't even going to let Edmonton get set up. They aren't going to let Edmonton play to their strengths. And I'm not going to say I think this series is done. Like, I think Edmonton actually can end up making my initial prediction come true. It could end up being Florida in 5. I still don't see Edmonton getting swept just because, like, how do Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid allow themselves to get swept? I think Connor McDavid will play his best game in the series and at least will them to 1 game. But Florida's, like, it's done. Florida, congratulations on your first Stanley Cup. Like it's your first Stanley Cup. You made the finals 3 times, and you're about to be batting 1 for 3 because they are going to beat the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers are just outmatched in every single way.
Yeah, they're being outclassed for sure. I think also, well, last night I remember on either the first or second Florida goal, Bouchard just coughed up the puck in
so lazy.
It was like it. I looked at my dad. I was like, "Dad, they look like the Leafs." That's what I said to him last night.
They are like they kind of took the Leafs roster. Like Connor Brown, Cody Ceci, like Zach Hyman. They have the Leafs, and they clearly have carried that Toronto baggage over with them to Edmonton.
I don't know. It was like a speed issue. It felt like they were turned down to 0.5 speed for some guys.
Crazy because like speed should be one of their main pros. Like they don't have a lot of they
right?
The pros and cons list. They don't have a lot that goes their way. They aren't a well-built flawless roster, but like they are speedy. They absolutely should not be looking slow compared to any.
Still, like last night, like I think there was one point in the first period, like Connor McDavid, he is like so talented. The way he moves the puck, like it's just. Florida's decided at that, and they've done a really friggin' good job at it of defending him. They have shut him down. Him and Leon, they just have. It's about lucky bounces at this point because taking their shot from the point, taking their little like slapper from like the side to try and rifle it over. It's not happening. Like, and another thing,
Sergei Bobrovsky.
No, and also I don't understand. Everyone's aiming for here. Why? Like, there's been no shots towards the top end of the net. Bobrovsky, he comes out of the net. It's a very vintage style goalie playing style. He'll come out of the net, he'll come back into the net, and he sits relatively low. Like, McLeod had a shot off a pass from McDavid straight into Bobrovsky's stomach. I'm like, you're not going to score against this guy like this. Not when he's shutting you down. It's going to be about next game. It's going to be about either lucky bounces or McDavid being McJesus. That's all I'm gonna say. Like,
and whose fault is that? That's how they're built. It was always gonna be, if they were gonna win a Stanley Cup or if they were gonna even pull through in these big moments, they're built in a manner where if their top guys don't put up, then they're getting shut down. Like they can't win because they don't have the ability to roll 4 consistent lines. All of their offense was coming from their top 6. Even I calculated this, like Florida versus Edmonton. Edmonton is only getting 13% of all of their points in the playoffs from their bottom 6. Florida's getting over 30%.
And you know who looks really bad? Like, really bad?
Who?
Draisaitl looks terrible. I don't know what's going on. He looks slow. I think he might be injured. I feel like something's gonna come out.
Well, to be honest, everyone at this point of the playoffs is injured. Like, you've been playing hockey for 2 months.
Some story is gonna come out. He doesn't look like the same Leon we've seen. Like, he doesn't. I was watching him last night. I was just like, you're like, I don't even think the puck got iced. I think he was just the last man out and had like a very clear window to like try and bring the puck back around the net, but he just like got beat to the puck, and it was, I don't know.
He's never been the fastest player though. Like, what set him apart is always it's his playmaking. He reads the game really well. He knows where to shoot from. Like, he has a beautiful one-timer. I used to get really pissed off when people would get into the Leon Draisaitl versus Austin Matthews debate. Austin Matthews is a way more well-rounded player. Austin Matthews is a better player just because you factor in the defensive the defensive part of the game. Like, Matthews is significantly more defensively responsible and better two-way player. But like, Draisaitl is fantastic at certain areas. He's an amazing goal scorer. He's an amazing playmaker. But it's never been his speed that has set him apart.
I hate to pull the card though, but like, I feel like also the fact that him and McDavid play together and have the chemistry, like when you're playing with a world-class level player, and it's not to say that Draisaitl wouldn't do well if he didn't play with McDavid. I still think he would be good. But I think when you have the speed, the puck handling skills, and like just the good hockey brain and knowledge of the game that McDavid has, if you're playing with him, we've seen that. That happened with Zach Hyman. You think Zach Hyman would have put up 50 goals if he's playing with the Leafs?
He consistently his career high with the Leafs was, I think, 22.
That's terrible.
One thing also, in terms of goals, he definitely was starting to get more points, but in terms of goals, I believe he was 22. One thing I'll say, I guess, kind of to push back on that a little bit. I mean, Draisaitl at 5-on-5 doesn't play with McDavid, right? So he still drives his own line, and like, I guess this, even just reading the people that Draisaitl plays with, kind of reflects the epitome of the issue here in terms of depth beyond the top guys. Draisaitl plays on the second line of the Edmonton Oilers, and he's playing alongside Warren Foegele and Corey Perry. Like, those are his line mates. Like, talk about a team with no depth. Where I will absolutely give you have a point, is a large percentage of Draisaitl's points. I don't know specifically in the playoffs, but I know like historically, like what people always say about him.
It's a lot.
He definitely is a power play merchant, and he gets a lot of points on that power play. And it's not just McDavid, but yeah, when you play on the best power play in the league, and yes, Draisaitl is a big part of that, but you still are getting some cookies. You're getting some rewards, always passing the puck to Connor McDavid, and apparently now Zach Hyman being a superstar in terms of the goal scoring department. Like, it does help him. I still think he is a superstar player, but you're right. He doesn't look like himself. He is being shut down. And who gets the credit for that? Florida. Florida is playing so well defensively. Barkov is an amazing defensive center, but even just the defensive core, and as we've mentioned, it's not just about defensive core. It's Florida's defensive structure. They shut you down. They aren't letting Draisaitl wait at the side of the net with his massive, like, canoe paddle, which he usually scores with. Like, he waits at the side of the net just ready to whack in pucks. And Florida isn't letting him do that. Florida isn't letting him sit by the net and wait there because they're just too big. They push you away. They don't let you get set up in that manner.
And Also, I don't know, Jared, my computer's glitching, but if you have a stat on it, Edmonton's power play and PK have been so bad. They are losing
In the finals. Yeah.
They are losing. Yes, in the finals. They were on a crazy run before the finals. They are being outclassed. Florida has had a masterclass in special teams this series. They won
specifically the penalty kill. Like power play, like they've always been a good power play team. But it's the penalty kill, like they are doing
so good.
And it goes back to I'm going to keep mentioning it. That's how Florida wins hockey games. That's why they are going to win the Stanley Cup this year.
They're so aggressive.
They are so good defensively. And it's not just like Dallas is great defensively. But Dallas is, again, they're kind of a slower, they shut things down, they're bigger, they're physical. Florida doesn't play like that defensively. Florida is like, oh, so it's like, you want to play well offensively? Okay, we're just going to chase you. Like, it's kind of it's a massive game of tag with them. They just actually are like, oh, you're skating with the puck? Okay, cool, I'm chasing right after. They don't give you an inch. And this comes back to Paul Maurice and the way he's kind of gotten his guys ready and the way he's coached them. He's gotten these guys, no matter the situation, 5-on-5. I mean, looking down the barrel at the Edmonton Oilers power play, which is one of the most terrifying in the entire NHL, I think most penalty kills would be absolutely terrified of that. But Florida's just been like, okay, bet this is no different for us. We're doing the exact same thing. We're going to chase them down. Okay, yes, sure, they have the advantage, an extra guy on the ice. Okay, they're next. We're just going to have to buzz around even faster and make sure they can't set up. Like, they are so good at count. They're almost the perfectly built team to shut down exactly what Edmonton has, like to counter is the word I'm looking for. They are perfectly built to counter what Edmonton has. And I think you've seen that so far in the playoff. They are literally the kryptonite to what Edmonton has. They have stars. They have amazing play. But Florida is able to shut things down and use their speed and their power, not just to make them a threat offensively as Edmonton has, but they use their speed and their ability to make them a threat defensively. And that's what makes them so scary and so incredible come playoff time.
I mean, I think this series too, like given and I had this whole argument about how Florida was going to be banged up from their series and whatever. I've just found it it's been physical. There's been a few altercations at the whistle, just kind of normal hockey, but I don't know, the aggression, especially from Edmonton, I would say, just given the state of how they're down 3-0 and it's like not great. And they didn't split in Florida and they've lost the home game they've played. But like, in my honest opinion, like I feel like it hasn't been like a star-studded, aggressive, like hitting. I mean, to be fair, I think there was almost 70 hits total in the game last night, which is like, it's decent amount.
Here's what I'll say. It's not that there hasn't been hitting. It's that I feel like when we saw the Stanley Cup Finals of Oilers versus the Panthers, like we expected full-on murder. And I feel like it's just like, yeah, it's been physical. Like it's the Stanley Cup Finals. It's been physical, but I feel like it hasn't been like extra. Hasn't been.
No.
Florida's back in the Stanley Cup Finals. Florida versus Vegas was war. I feel like it hasn't felt like war. It's just kind of been like, yeah, it's two teams that hate each other. It's two teams that want to win.
But okay, here's my hot take. All right. I believe this is gonna happen. This is brought to you by my father as well. We had a discussion.
Okay.
Sam Gagner enters the lineup for game 4.
Interesting. Do you have like a reason to? Is there any quotes?
Yes, I do. Oh, I most certainly do.
I want to hear it.
It is not statistical. It is not because he's a young hotshot who is young with age. He is wise. He has seen it all. I think they need it for the morale boost. I think they need it for the fight. They need it for the, I don't know. My dad and I were talking about it. We were like, you could just keep him out of the lineup. You've got Corey Perry. You've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. You've got guys who have been at it for a while, but I don't know. I think they need to shake things up.
I guess like you have nothing to lose. Like,
right?
Yeah.
At that point, no.
What's the difference of losing in 4, losing in 5? Like,
and
whatever.
Then my dad said he's gonna pull out his signed Sam Gagner jersey. He has that Oilers one, so he's gonna wear it.
I didn't think about that, but like, surely it would shake things up. The only thing I'd say to that is
he's just slow and old. So I mean,
slow and old, and like if you're trying to maximize your chances of winning, if he is really like he's pretty bad on the ice, like he is not the player he used to be. would he
No.
maybe just be better at is there any difference between having him in the lineup or having him just like read out the lineup? Like, is there any difference in morale boost there? Like, it's like he's in and around the guys. He'll be in the locker room. He'll potentially read out this lineup or whatever.
I just think they need some Gagner magic. Like, I think they need it.
Does Gagner have that much magic? I don't know. I don't know what he has left in that.
I think it's just the veteran. Like, what? How old is the guy now? He's bounced around the league. He is like
Gagner. 34.
Okay, so like he's low key like not that much older than Tavares.
But it's not about age. It's about like he hasn't played in a while. He played 28 games this season. When is his last? Let's find out when his last game was. Okay. His last game was April 18th, in which he was a -2.
All right, that's not terrible. He's played for the Oilers, Coyotes, Flyers, Blue Jackets, Canucks, Red Wings, Jets, and Oilers again. But he's been through it.
He's bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah, he started playing 2007.
Okay, you know what I think we should discuss right now? I think let's get into Conn Smythe. Let's get into
I'm ready. I'm ready to rock.
I want to hear yours first, though.
No, but I don't want to be. No,
I want to hear your pick first.
I mean, it's the logical, in my opinion, it's the logical pick. Okay. Jared, I think will disagree, but it's fine. I mean, I have some stats pulled up here.
Dude,
so
pull up your stats.
Okay, well, now they're gone.
You're allowed to have it. It's not that I think it's not going to happen. I just looked into a few things where I'm like, I don't know. But I'm going to say that out, and the viewer at home could form their own opinion. Who's right?
No, I made a joke of Evan Rodriguez. I wasn't serious. I said only if he gets like a hat trick in the next game or something crazy. But it's also only one round. So, but anyways, I think my top pick for the Conn Smythe is probably Bobrovsky, just because he's had this crazy career or this crazy playoff run. I mean, we can run it back to last year. His stats, he had a goals against average of 2.78, and he's brought that down to 2.07. So he's allowing almost one goal less, which
he's better than he was last year, which is crazy.
He's better.
Was really good last year.
He was really good.
Until about the finals, then he kind of went down.
Then he choked. I mean, like he's very cool, calm, and collected. He's not up and down, which I think is kind of part of the reason that Florida has had success in this series. I think a little bit throughout, but I think he's really shown that he can shut down an explosive offense in the Edmonton Oilers. So he would probably be my first pick. I mean, I feel like if I'm curious to hear these stats that Jared's going to pull up in a minute, because I mean, I haven't loked into it in depth. But if it wasn't Bobrovsky, originally I said Tkachuk, but he's been a bit of a silent, he hasn't really wowed me in this round. I won't lie. He's strong, well-rounded player, of course, gets into it, finds the puck, makes the plays that lead to the goals. But I don't know. I would say more of a potentially an Aaron Ekblad situation or a Barkov situation would probably be my other two. Yep. They've been outstanding. Like we said, I think
more Barkov than Ekblad. I think Ekblad, even though he has been really good defensively, I think I
would argue as well.
Barkov out of the run. I think realistically it is a battle of three people.
I think Barkov would definitely be the other one. I mean, those are my picks. Jared, I'm gonna toss it over to you. Just to hear the stats so we can debate.
Okay. Here are my reasons for why I don't think Sergei Bobrovsky is going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Okay. He's been unbelievable in the Stanley Cup playoffs, specifically in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to mention it again. He currently has a .984 save percentage in the Stanley Cup Finals. But how is the Conn Smythe Trophy awarded? It's not like the NBA. It's not Finals MVP. So they don't just go recency bias. Oh, he's been the most good recently.
They go entire playoffs.
It's not voted by like, an impartial party. It's voted by the Hockey Writers Association. So yes, they do obviously go, okay, what's the best storyline? What's the best whatever? And usually they do obviously put more stock into how well you do as it gets later on in the playoffs. So I'm not saying it's like impossible for him to win. I'm not saying he's been bad, but here's really the main reason why he's not my vote, even though he has been really good. But it's not have you been good or have you been bad. Him not being the MVP doesn't mean he's been bad, but it's who is the most valuable player for the Florida Panthers. Now, what I think of most valuable player, I think of someone that has absolutely gone above and beyond what they could reasonably be expected to do in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The most recent goaltender to win the Conn Smythe Trophy was in 2021 when Andrei Vasilevsky won the Conn Smythe Trophy. He had a goal saved above expected of 26.6. That was his goal saved above expected. Right now in 2024, Sergei Bobrovsky has an 11.5 goal saved above expected. It's good. It's not the typical otherworldly you need to be the true MVP from a goaltender. If you look at what Vasilevsky's stats were, again, I'm using him, and I have the stats from more goalies beyond that have won playoff MVP, but we're going to start with Vasilevsky. He had a .937 save percentage in that Stanley Cup playoffs. Bobrovsky, again, has not been bad by any means, but he's a .916. Not otherworldly. He's been good. He's, in fact, been a large part of the reason why the Florida Panthers, I would say, look like a pretty surefire at this point lock to win the Stanley Cup. But he has not been the single reason. He has not been that most valuable player. He's been good. He's done everything you could expect him to do. He's done everything you need him to do. But in my mind, he hasn't been that number one MVP. Moving on to goals against average. Well, Vasilevsky in that year, he won MVP. He had a 1.90 goals against average to Sergei Bobrovsky's 2.07. Again, not as good. Then I wrote a note, this isn't a situation. Vasilevsky did not win the Conn Smythe Trophy 2 years in a row. Victor Hedman won it in 2020. But if you look at goals saved above expected in the year when he did not win the Conn Smythe Trophy, he had a goal saved above expected of 20.8. Again, almost 10 above what Sergei Bobrovsky has. Sergei Bobrovsky has an 11.5. Moving on to the most recent MVP before Andrei Vasilevsky in 2021. Remember, goalies don't tend to win this award very often. There was almost 10 years in between Andrei Vasilevsky winning it and Jonathan Quick, the most recent one, winning it in 2012. Jonathan Quick had a goal saved above expected of 14.7. So again, 3 greater than Sergei Bobrovsky. But then get this. Remember, Sergei Bobrovsky is a .916 save percentage. Jonathan Quick in that season where he was absolutely dominant, take in the factor they were the 8th seed, by the way. So they were not a team as good as the Florida Panthers. They were the 8th seed. He had a .947 save percentage and a 1.41 goals against average. Again, Jonathan Quick is the pure reason why they won that Stanley Cup in 2012. They were the last place team to make the playoffs as the 8th seed, and they went up 3-0 at least in every single one of their series. Some of them, they lost that 4th game and ended up winning the series in 5. They did not win a series in anything other than 4 or 5. Like, they were one of the most dominant Stanley Cup winners as an 8th seed. And
that was crazy. Bar Down posted the video of the Martinez goal. It was so good.
That was
I watched that game.
The Martinez one was 2014.
Oh.
But okay, so then I'm going to get to the one reason. Funny enough, it's not very often that goalies win playoff MVP. But there was a time in 2011 and 2012 where 2 years in a row a goalie did win MVP. It was Tim Thomas in 2011 who had. This is the one goalie that has a worse goal saved above expected than Bobrovsky. He has a 9.1, so 2 worse, but he had a 940 save percentage and a 1.98 goals against average. It's not that Bobrovsky's been bad. When I'm saying I don't think he's winning MVP, don't take that as I think he's bad. Don't take that as I'm slighting him in any way. But it's not just like same argument people make about like the Hall of Fame. When I'm saying someone isn't making the Hall of Fame, it's not that they're bad. It's just, it's not the Hall of Very Good. It's the Hall of Fame. Same thing. It's not, you were good on their cup run. No, you are the most valuable player. And I have a reason to believe that there are 2 other players that one I would vote for. I'm going to say who my pick is, and I don't think my pick is going to win. I think another guy is going to win that I'm not picking. Okay, for starters, I'm going to say two different people, and then I'm going to reveal which one I would go with and which one I actually think the hockey writers are going to go with as like my prediction to win it. The two names, as you could guess, it's Barkov and it's Tkachuk. Barkov currently is tied for 5th total in overall goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs with 7. He has 7 goals, 14 assists, and 21 points. Matthew Tkachuk has 1 less point, so he has 5 goals, 15 assists for a total of 20 total points in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I believe Matthew Tkachuk is going to win the Conn Smythe trophy, but I would not vote for him. I think Barkov deserves it.
We're in the same boat, except the goalie thing, but yeah.
Barkov plays on the penalty kill rather. Matthew Tkachuk does not. And Barkov is a huge part in the reason why this penalty kill on the Florida Panthers has been one of the best in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. He is a massive factor for that. He is also one of the best face-off takers in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. You look specifically at this series against the Edmonton Oilers and how he shut down Connor McDavid. I use that as an example just because it's the biggest star that they've had to go up against. I mean, it's the biggest star in the entire NHL. But it's not just an example of recency bias of just Barkov stepping up in the Stanley Cup Finals. No, the way he shut down all of the stars on the Rangers in the last series, the way he shut down the stars on the Boston Bruins in the second round, and even the way he shut down and made the Tampa Bay Lightning look like they weren't even a threat. Barkov has been the MVP, not just in the Stanley Cup Finals, not just in the conference finals, but the entire way through. And then also one thing I noted is that if you want to compare who's been, the MVP, you look at ice time. Who's been on the ice more? Who's been on the ice late in games? Who has Paul Maurice relied upon in these situations? Barkov has an average ice time of 21.27. 21 minutes in 21 minutes and 27 seconds, whereas Tkachuk only has 18 minutes and 39 seconds rather. Barkov's been on the ice for more. He plays on the penalty kill, whereas Tkachuk does not, and has more points. Plus,
which is kind of wild, by the way.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Barkov should be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. I want him to be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner because he is one of the best defensive
He's so centers. Deserving of it as well.
He's so deserving. I think more deserving than Tkachuk. But here's why I do think the hockey writers are going to vote for Tkachuk. Tkachuk has become not a golden boy in the sense of like being a good, nice face. He's just been a personality. Like Tkachuk in the States is one of the biggest stars of hockey. He's the biggest chance of growing the game, especially in southern markets, because he's kind of fiery with the media. He's funny. He's outgoing. Like, he is a player that I think the media loves because he gives us interesting content. And when it's the Professional Hockey Writers Association that is the one voting for this award, I do believe in the end they are going to end up giving it to Tkachuk because it's going to go on his trophy case. It's going to, when he does his press tour and when he gives a whole bunch of funny content and goes on these talk shows and whatever, giving MVP to the funny, outgoing American guy, it's just going to be better for the media than giving it to the kind of quiet Finnish guy. But I think Barkov does deserve the award, but Tkachuk, in my prediction, is going to win it. And even though Bobrovsky's been good, in my mind, he hasn't been good enough to join that list of goaltenders that have won playoff MVP.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Definitely, I think those would be my other two. If so,
I have a question though. Have I convinced you at all on the goaltending front, or are you still going?
Little bit.
Like, don't take it just from me. Like,
no. Like you were very well researched, Jared. Like, I'm not surprised, but I'm impressed.
To be totally honest, like, I wrote this on like a little sticky note. Like, this is not like I was thinking about this a lot before. I've been studying for the LSAT. Now, I was studying for the LSAT up until about, I think, 1:45 is when I finished the quiz I was working on. And I'm like, maybe if I'm thinking of MVP, I should like look into this for like 15 minutes before we go up on a Zoom call and before I make myself look like an idiot. And then I look at the goal saved above expected and like literally just like random, just like memorizing the most random hockey stats. I'm like, I feel like I remember Vasilevsky in 2021 having a way better goal saved above expected than 11. So I looked into it and I'm like, not just way better. He has.
You remembered right.
Well, yeah, like he has a 26.6 goal saved above expected. So I'm like, hold on, what's the most recent? So it just kind of like started the chain of logic there where I'm like, Okay, Vasilevsky was this. Okay, what did he have in 2020? Okay, he also had over 20. What happened the most recent time someone won MVP? So I looked into what time that was. Oh, it was Jonathan Quick. Then I remembered the context of how Jonathan Quick won that. And then I kind of just started breaking it down. I'm like, how could you put, he's been good, but how could you like, in your right, like how could he put him in that list with the Vasilevskys and the Quicks? He's been good, but he hasn't been otherworldly. And the award is you're the MVP. You are that one guy that was the MVP, and I just don't put Bobrovsky in that standpoint.
So I have two more questions before we move on to some interesting other topics that we have planned. So the first question is, in theory, if Edmonton pulls off the literal impossible, who are you taking for your Conn Smythe pick? I feel like it's obvious.
It's obvious.
There's only one person who's deserving of it, and there's only one person who I think...
And that is Wayne Gretzky. No, I'm kidding.
It is actually Connor McDavid.
It's Connor McDavid. Yeah. Easy, no question.
Easy.
Again, like for no other reason, and there's more reasons, but like I'm saying, like at the very least, like with this fact, it's done. It's the hockey writers that are doing it. They want
you're picking McDavid.
They want to be able to give McDavid whatever accolade they can, because when he retires, they want to be able to be like, they honestly, it's good for business if Connor McDavid builds as good a case as possible to rival a Wayne Gretzky. They want to be able to say, okay, he has enough accolades to be the greatest hockey player of all time. They would give him MVP, let alone the fact that just for them to turn this around, they will need their captain. B, McDavid is the best player on their team. Like, there's too much going McDavid's way.
He has 34 points in 21 games in the
ridiculous.
Cup, in the playoffs.
He is winning MVP. If by some miracle they do it, but
it's more than a miracle.
It's literally
a prayer.
It's like it's impossible.
Okay. So the last thing before we move on to some Utah, who do you have hoisting the cup from each team? Now, I saw a stat on this, and I saw that seniority does play a role. And Kyle Opozo is ranked like second or third, and I was kind of like, fair. But I think it'll be a Tkachuk or a Bob, in my opinion, for Florida. Or a Barkov.
Well, so Barkov will lift it first just from being captain. Okay, the question is, like, who are they going to pass it off to?
Yeah.
I haven't thought about this. This is an interesting question.
See, I saw like it was a FanDuel stat that TSN like Edge or our, sort of like our
partners with them. Yep.
Yeah. So that was where I saw it originally. It's a tricky one. Like, are you handing it off? And then
it's the question of how do you, it's not even a question of what would you do. It's a question of like, what would you predict like a Barkov or a McDavid? What would they do?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say. I think I'm not even going to say if. When Barkov wins the Stanley Cup, I think he passes it off to his buddy, his right-hand man. I think he passes it off to Tkachuk. I think Tkachuk lifts it next. I think that's what's going to happen. McDavid, though, is like a Toronto boy. You see it from his Twitter. He's like kind of like a nerd of the game. So you even see there's like tweets that are surfacing of like him watching hockey as a little kid. And I'm not saying, like, I'm sure Barkov growing up in Finland was a nerd of the game, and I'm sure he was a massive hockey fan. But I'm just saying I don't know that for a fact, whereas I know that for a fact with McDavid. Like, I see it from his Twitter. He was a nerd of the game. He loved the game, meaning I feel like, especially like growing up in Toronto, growing up in Canada, he would have heard all those things. Oh, you have to give it to the veteran first. You have to give it to the guy first. So,
agreed.
With that in mind, I feel like McDavid is more likely to give it to like someone that hasn't done it before. And then the question is, who's he going to give it to? Or,
No, but okay, I also think I think you could give the argument that Corey Perry is really deserving of having it, but I think he'd be like third. Maybe fourth. I think Nugent Hopkins easily.
Yeah,
you know what?
Nuge.
Nuge.
I like that Nuge pick. You know what I'm going to say? I like the Nuge pick. I was thinking of if there's like a big like veteran that's like been in the league for years and has never won.
Gagner.
No. Like they have like the Derek Ryans. They have the Vinny Desharnais. I don't think that. I like the Nugent Hopkins pick, But then I also look at, on the other hand, you're the captain. You're the feel-good guy. You're the one who has to give your dues to the guys that helped you do this. Stuart Skinner has been really bad, right? In the Stanley Cup Finals, he's been really bad. Meaning, if they end up winning 4 games straight, reasonable argument that Stuart Skinner will need to like actually turn this finals on its head, and he will need to put up a Sergei Bobrovsky 984 save percent. If he does that, if he is the reason, if he single-handedly turns around his play in order to allow the Oilers to get here, I already think there's an argument that like the only reason they're in the finals is because of how well Stuart Skinner stepped up in the conference finals. Yeah, I could see Connor McDavid being like, Stu, bring it in here, take the Stanley Cup, you put us on your back.
Okay, fine. So we'll say that for Edmonton, it could be McDavid to Stu if in some shocking miracle, unless Edmonton's
gonna happen.
Unless Edmonton's winning games like 6-5, 7.
Yes,
7-3.
In that case, I like the Nuge pick. I think the Nuge pick is very.
The Nuge pick is great. I think Corey Perry though. I spaced on this for a second. He's won it with Anaheim. He won it in his like, very, very, very young years. I think was it his first year?
That I don't know. I feel
no. I think he's a bit older.
No, yeah, he's not. No, because 2007 draft would be, it would be 2006 draft, but that would put him as same age as the Jonathan Taze's. No, he's older than those guys.
But yeah, I think Nugent Hopkins would be a definite for pass off if Skinner does have the performance that we're talking of, and then maybe you give it to a guy like Draisaitl or something. I don't know. But
hey, Utah.
It's Utah
Let's ship
time.
Off to Utah.
Guys, we just got the I think the jerseys look fly. I'm down with the colors. Well, obviously they're going to be boring. They pulled some PWHL type stuff. Like
but not even like the name I can live with. It's the colors that are.
I think though,
light blue.
Okay, so it's not the Swarm. Sorry, Jared. I think it's going to be the Yetis.
Yeah, that's clear. But it's boring. Even if you go with the Yeti, like Jesse made a good point. Jesse posted this on Bar Down. If it does end up being the Utah Yeti, and they put a Yeti in the middle with the black and the light blue, that's the Winnipeg Ice's jersey. So it's not original. Like I'm gonna pull that up now. It's not original. Like black and blue is a very basic colorway. How do you not have, if you're doing a mountain color, like if you're in Utah, right? They have the Utah mountains. How do you not have some kind of purple in there? Like, it was the perfect chance to do a purple and a blue.
Triple. They could have done the black, blue, and purple.
Boom, yeah, or some kind of like, even I was looking at doing like a powder blue and like a navy. Have some kind of light blue, dark blue, and then a purple accent.
Yeah, they kind of, I think they like swung and miss on it a little bit.
Well, it's not awful. It's just boring. Like, hold on. Like, it's that jersey. It's the Utah Ice. Sorry, the Winnipeg Ice, I mean. I'm not going to say it's ugly. Like, again, they didn't really go risky because you can't go risky when you just have Utah. They didn't have a crazy logo. They didn't have anything. It's just, it says Utah. And to be honest, it's fine. I mean, to be honest, it's disappointing that I feel like even though, yes, they weren't granted a team until April, they announced interest in having a team dating back to last May, like May of 2023. Meaning I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't have anything ready. Like,
me too.
Like they should have.
Me too.
Even though I get it, they weren't officially granted a team until like Arizona officially closed and whatever. But how do you, if you announce interest, you're a $1 billion organization, and you announce interest in owning an NHL team, I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that you would at least have, in the back of your mind, if I'm having a Utah team, I want the colorway to look like this and the logo to look like this and the name to sound like this. Because then that way, all they got to do the second, they're granted a team, okay, designer, this is the name I want, this is the idea I want, make it. Like, that's all you have to do.
Feels like there was a lack of prep. Like, they were caught off guard a little bit.
It seems like, yeah, like they got granted a team, even though for a year being like begging for a team. Then they finally are granted one, and they're like, oh, now what? Okay, we have to start from the beginning. It's like, what? You didn't have more in the works here? Like,
I know. I was like, really? I don't know. I get it. They're doing like a trial run for the year, but at the same time, I was kind of like,
I wish they had something prepped. And then, like, you did the 20 name trademark. They did that, I think, already in beginning of May. Then within a month, they were able to narrow it down to 6. Now they're doing the final vote. So by the end of the month, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to announce what the final name is, but realistically, I think it was a 2-week vote, meaning by now they probably know who won the vote already. Like, you have the name, most likely. Start thinking of a design. There's no way it should take more than, 4 months to generate something. Like, even if it's like midway through the year, you're able to unveil it. I get it. They didn't want like a repeat of the Vegas situation where Vegas announced their jerseys and they had their jerseys ready to go for game 1, but they weren't ready to be sold. Like, people really wanted to pre-order and buy the jerseys. And they're like, oh, sorry, we only made enough for the team. We didn't make enough to sell. So like, I get it. They want enough time to cover all their bases, make sure they print enough jerseys for them, make sure they print enough jerseys to be sold. Like, they want to do things right, and I get that. But you have a lot of months. You have the entire summer. How long does this take?
I don't know.
So the colors, I like the powder blue. I like powder blue. I don't hate having black as an accent color.
The powder blue reminds me a bit of, the Penguins jerseys.
Yes.
Like the vintage. I loved those ones.
They're super nice. And even like you had like the Florida reverse retros a few years ago, like those were really nice.
It's a nice color to see on the ice.
Yeah. Powder blue is really nice. I like it. But it doesn't look like powder blue is the main color. Like, why is there another main black jersey? I don't get that. You already have LA that has primarily black.
So boring.
The Penguins that have primarily black. You have, even though Boston, yes, they're more like gold, but they have gold sleeves and whatever. But like the main part of the jersey is black. Get creative here. Like, black, it should actually be banned from the NHL to have another black. You have too many. You have too many black jerseys. Do something else.
Do better.
Anyways, okay, so I say what we do now is power ranking 1 to 6 out of the jerseys out of the names that have been finalized. You're allowed to say one honorable mention. I mean, I have my answer, and you know my answer of a name that like was trademarked, but that didn't end up getting voted in. You're allowed to say that. And then I say, let's end this thing off by like, based on your number 1 pick, give me a little like brainstorm of what you want the jerseys to look like. And I don't know, maybe if I have a chance later on during the week, I'll use AI to try to like make our ideas.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give my 6th one.
Okay.
Wait. There's
do
only
you remember the 6?
1, 2, 3. Well, it's one of them, the Utah Hockey Club.
That's in the running. That got voted into.
That's 6. That's 6.
Agreed. That is 6 for me as well. That is actually terrible. And that's, I'm gonna say my honorable mention now. I'm not even gonna save it for the end. How did a Utah Hockey Club get more votes than the Utah Swarm? Utah is called the Beehive State. The building would have been called the Hive. The team would have been the Swarm. They would have had black, gold, and green jerseys that would have looked like an army of bees, a colony of bees flying around, swarming together. It was perfect. It had every single...
They had the setup. They had the
storyline there. I had more than enough AI jerseys I would have donated them to, base the design off. The design was there. I mean, like, I can't envision what the hell a Utah Hockey Club looks like. A Utah Swarm, I can imagine.
A Utah Hockey Club is just the Utah.
It's what we're looking at right now. I mean, they're going to be the Utah Hockey Club for their first year. But if the fact that it's even a possibility that Utah Hockey Club isn't just their first year and Utah Hockey Club lasts the entire way through their history, that is terrible. And to be totally honest, I mean, congratulations, the Utah hockey fans that voted in this vote. Congrats on your first L. I mean, before you guys even took the ice, that's already your first L. You guys voted the Utah.
People are not happy. It's not just us though. It's literally not just terrible. Us.
There were so many forget you don't like the Utah Swarm, fine. I mean, I didn't like the Utah Ice, but like there were other options there. The Utah Ice, the Utah Glaciers, the Utah Mountaineers. They're not good, but they're better than the hockey club. At least I could envision what I'm looking at there.
Okay, so 6, I'd say 5. 5 for me is probably the Venom.
Interesting. Okay.
You know what? It's between the Venom and Blizzard for me.
So you go with your gut, and then I'll say my pick.
No, I'll go with Blizzard. Blizzard just
okay. So I thought we were in a disagreement there, but I'm on the Blizzard train.
It
how are
just
you gonna have
is.
a hockey game between the Colorado Avalanche and the Utah Blizzard? Like, I know they're not exactly the same, but why is there
Yeah,
you know,
we've got the hurricane, we've already got the storm, you
no,
know.
like I don't even look at the natural disaster. Like, sure, like lightning and hurricanes, I'm even gonna put aside for a moment. Why is there two snow-based natural disaster names? Like, out of 32, how are two of them snow-based names? Like, why is that a thing? So yeah, I'm so done with the Blizzard. I think the Blizzard is a terrible option purely for the reason that there's already the Avalanche. Like, you have snowfall names, you have snowfall logos, you have all kinds of.
Yeah. Jared's mic just cut out. I'm gonna be speaking for him. No kidding.
I literally heard my background noise turn off.
Okay, no, I can hear you now.
Boom. I literally heard like my mic go mute. I'm like, something just happened there. Apparently, the hockey gods really are a big fan of the Utah Blizzard, but
And
no,
yeah.
I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible.
So I'd say fourth for me is probably Mammoth.
So you initially had the Venom vibe.
No, wait, no. Actually, Venom. Venom is four.
So we're
and then Mammoth is three.
We're currently batting perfect so far, but let's talk about the Venom first and foremost. What are your thoughts on the Venom?
I just kind of don't really understand what I don't know. Does it have to do with bees? Like,
no, it would be like a rattlesnake or something. It would be some kind of like Utah rattlesnake.
Okay, I don't know. I think Venom is fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. It's like
it's all
it's also
right. It's all right. I think that the league has too many animals, but I mean, my top pick, I guess you could.
Let's go in order. You're jumping the gun.
No, I know, but my argument with the animal thing, I don't know. There's just we need some other variety in there.
I'm cool. No, here's the thing. I'm cool with animals that we haven't seen. I'm more than fine with animal names as long as it's cool. And as long as it relates to Utah. Like, if there was another, like, for example, like people always, use arguments. Oh, why should Utah do blank name? There's no blanks in Utah. And I'm like, okay, first of all, like, there's no penguins walking around Pittsburgh, but that didn't stop them. But that's stupid. Like, if you're doing a name, it should absolutely be an animal that in some way, shape, or form relates to Utah. The Utah Swarm
relates
sense.
To the city.
The Utah Swarm made sense because the nickname for Utah is the Beehive State. So that made sense. The Venom makes sense because I believe there are rattlesnakes that live in Utah. And here's another thing I'm going to pull up, and this is something we could show up in big on the actual podcast. And Joey, I'll send you these images that you could crop in. I used AI to make some jerseys, and they actually are pretty cool. And as someone that really wanted a purple colorway, I think
those are
absolutely
those are dope
to do something purple. And I think every other jersey, I would want to do something that's blue and purple. Well, for snakes, you can't really do blue. Like, blue isn't really a snake color. It would more be
green.
Which I think would actually be cool. My one thing with the Utah Venom is it kind of sounds a little minor league baseball team to me. It's like fine, but it's not great. It's just kind of like it feels like it's overdone. It feels like it's every stereotypical like 90s sports movie. It's like, oh, we're about to win the championship, but who do we have to go up against? Funny enough, hint for number 3. And by the way, I said it wrong. Initially, when I was doing my video, I said I agreed with you that initially I had Mammoth 3. But I actually remember at the end of that video, I switched it where I moved Mammoth. I moved things around and I ended up having Venom 4 and Outlaws 3. Because those are the most stereotypical, generic, just like sports movie, like enemy team. Like, oh, we got to take out the Outlaws. It's like, that's kind of nothing.
And see, like, I'm the opposite. I love it. I love
like the cheesy,
Outlaws.
like.
It just, that's like, there isn't, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't a team in the league that I feel like has a name like the Outlaws. I don't know. There's not like it's like oh, let's play the Leafs. Oh, let's play the Kings. Like, there's not like
kind of mean. Yeah, it has like it's almost like it's a description. It's like they're bad. They're Outlaws.
Yeah, that's why I like that one. Just as a side note. But anyway, sorry. You can continue.
Well, here's my thing with Outlaws, and I don't disagree. I honestly think you can't go wrong. Even, to be honest, even Venom I'm fine with. I honestly think you can't go wrong with the top 4. As
But
long as
what,
it's
you're fine with the minor league baseball?
like, I'm fine with it. It's not my top choice, but like if they really went with it, I don't think you could go wrong. Because to be
Watch
honest,
it win.
I could envision a brand in jerseys and logos for every single one of the top four. As long as it's not the Blizzard or the hockey club, I'm pretty happy. Here's my thing with the Outlaws. It actually makes sense for Utah because Utah is in the Wild West, and having some kind of like cowboy themed name is pretty cool. It leaves you room for a whole bunch of like alternate and third jerseys. You could have a jersey of like a cowboy riding a horse. Like, it leaves you room for cool branding things. You could even have like a cowboy hat with like the logo. Like, there's cool branding opportunities.
That was what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
Like,
there's cool branding opportunities with the Outlaw, so it's not a bad option.
well,
but what kills it for me is Mammoth seems original and Outlaws seems generic. I feel like I've heard of 1,000,001 names called the Outlaws. Minor league hockey team, minor league baseball team, minor league whatever. Mammoth is original. It feels like it's its own brand new.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, in my opinion, I think though, and like a lot of your AI from the Stanley Cup actually had some sheriff vibes.
Yep.
Like the disciplinarian. And I feel like the NHL doesn't, the closest thing is probably the Knights, which like a little outdated. So like I kind of, that was what passed the vibe check for me in terms of
it's something
Outlaws.
Outlaw related. Again, it's not bad. It's my third place. But I guess we now have a swap. So this is the one area where we do differ. And, through process of elimination, we do both have the same team.
Hey, but I think we have the same topic. And I think
that's what I was just saying.
Most of the hockey world does.
Yeah,
so
through process of elimination, we have the same pick. But anyways, the reason that I ended up, because initially in my video, we would have been batting 6 for 6. I initially had blank number 1. I had Outlaws 2, Mammoth 3. And then as I was doing it, for the reason I just mentioned, Mammoth has a lot of cool factors going for it.
Yeah,
number
absolutely.
1, it's original. I haven't heard of any major sports names called the Mammoth. It's new. I could think of a new brand for it. 2, I could envision a really cool logo for that. I'm going to send you as well the AI jerseys I made for the Mammoth. It's pretty damn sick. 3, Gritty took the world by storm as a really fuzzy and funny mascot. You don't think the NHL wants to do another funny mascot that becomes a household name? Could you imagine some like a massive woolly like mammoth, like call him Woolly, and have some kind of trunk that hangs around and he like bats around with this like bouncing trunk? Like, that's hilarious. And this is where I like, those are kind of the jokey reasons, but this is where I actually get into why it relates to Utah and why I actually think it would be really cool and it would make a lot of sense. Reason number 1, they found a whole bunch of like fossils of mammoths dating back to the Ice Age that were found in the mountain region of Utah. That's cool to take history related to Utah and make a brand out of it. They have found a whole bunch of like mammoth fossils and prehistoric things that relate to, the Stone Age and the Fossil Age and the Ice Age. That's really cool to take. And there's no, like, obviously the Toronto Raptors have like a dinosaur name, but like, that's just kind of because dino sound cool. It was made during the 90s and it relates to Jurassic Park. There's no actual like history that we know of specifically of like velociraptors being, in the region of Toronto. But there actually were mammoths that were in that region that now is known as Utah. And I think that's really
very cool. Yeah.
And then reason number 2, I don't know if you know this, but this is a news story that I've been following very intently. There's a company called Colossal that's actually making it their mission to bring mammoths back from extinction. They're basically taking DNA that they found from, I believe, Russia, and they are taking it. It's like fossilized DNA. They're then breeding that fossilized DNA or implanting it into an Indian elephant, which is the closest related relative to the mammoth. 22 months is the gestation period for an Indian elephant. Then it's literally going to breed like a half mammoth, half elephant. And eventually that's how they're going to bring mammoths back from extinction. They say that's going to happen within the next decade.
Jared, you're really whipping out these like crazy stats that I had no idea about.
The reason why I think that's really cool for them and why it makes sense to do is because that right there is the easiest advertisement that you could ever think of. Do some kind of like scientist guy, like, we need to bring the mammoth back from extinction. And then all of a sudden it's like you hatch open an egg and it's like the captain of it's like Clayton Keller sitting in a Utah hockey mammoth jersey. And he like hatches out of like not an egg, obviously they don't have eggs, elephants, but like whatever, it hatches out of some kind of prehistoric thing or out of some like lab, and and it's all of a sudden Clayton Keller's like, hey guys, the Mammoths are back from extinction. Like, that to me is so sick. That's an easy like advertisement that I can picture. I'm not saying they're gonna partner with this DNA like cloning company. Like, I don't see really an easy brand partnership with a science company compared to a hockey team. But like,
it's a possibility.
They could use that storyline and easily do something related to the Mammoth. So that kind of thinking of those storylines is what bumped Mammoth to number 2 for me. But then, let's say it all at once. The Utah Yeti. The Utah Yeti is going to be a thing. I still stand by. If the Utah Swarm got voted in over the Utah Hockey Club, I still would have gone Utah Swarm over the Utah Yeti. I believe there was
Jared's taking this loss really hard.
I really am. I still believe that there is more related to Utah with the Swarm, because even though the Utah Yeti like relates to mountains, they're like, the Yeti isn't like a creature that's like based in Utah culture. And to be honest, like, I saw someone make this argument about the Kraken, and it doesn't really matter. Like, the Kraken, for example, isn't from the Pacific Northwest. The Kraken is a creature that they believe existed in the Atlantic Ocean. But it still is a cool name. So for the same reason, like, the Yeti is a creature that's native to, or well, the theory is that it was found in the Himalayas. It's obviously the other side of the world, but it's still related to the mountains, so it's cool and it is the top option. I still think the Utah Swarm and the fact that it's the Beehive State is better, but the Utah Yeti is the top option. It has an easy brand opportunity for a logo. It has an easy mascot opportunity. The jersey would be absolutely sick, and it's original.
I love a big abominable snowman.
It'd be so cool.
I watched I think it was Jack Frost's Rudolph.
Okay.
And I watched it forever. And when the Yeti, or they called it the abominable snowman, but it's now the correct term is Yeti, obviously. I think to have that is, like it's sick. It's unreal. Awesome. And I think too, because I feel like it's kind of like a threatening force. You could look at Carlton the bear, and he is just quite literally a stuffed bear. Like, no offense.
What I'll challenge there is,
look at his face. He has a smile.
Cute. I don't think the way to build a good mascot is to make them look scary. Look at Hunter. Look at the Oilers mascot.
Hunter's so scary. Hunter haunts
that isn't cute. That isn't selling t-shirts or plushies. That is just terrifying. I think you should sooner do like a funny one, like Gritty, and that's why like the Mammoth would be funny.
I also like
a Yeti would be funny,
like a Youppi, like a Montreal Expos.
That's what he would be like. That's what it would be, like a white and blue like fuzzy monster. It would be cute. It would be funny. It would sell t-shirts, but it wouldn't be like actually.
Sorry, I just was looking at the jerseys, and I think that those are gonna calm my nightmares now. Though he looked angry, he looked mad. But what would you? Here's a real question. What are you naming him?
Oh, what do you name it?
What are you naming the Yeti?
It's hard to say because, like, again,
Snowy the Yeti.
No, not Snowy. Okay, if it's the Mammoth, I would go Woolly. I like the name Woolly for the Mammoth. The Woolly Mammoth.
Woolly Mammoth. Yeah, like, what are you naming the Yeti?
I don't think you could go wrong with just having the word Yeti in the back. Yeti the Yeti, I think, is kind of funny. It's like stupid, but it's almost
redundant.
No, but it's so stupid that it's funny. Like, it's almost like ironic. Like, I feel like the team would be in it, like, yeah, it's just Yeti the Yeti. Or I think, okay, there's that movie that came out a few years ago about like a little snowman called Abominable. Call him Abominable the Yeti. I mean, he kind of sounds like an abomination. I don't know, but like it's funny.
I think. What if you named him like Frosty or like Rocky?
Okay, is Frosty the Snowman very well might be trademarked. I actually guarantee you it is trademarked.
Yeah, Frosty the Snowman, not Frosty the Yeti.
I don't think they'd want to cross into copyright territory with that. I like the idea.
I like Rocky because, like, Rocky Mountains, mountain range. It doesn't flow well. Yeti the Yeti. I think it's Yeti the Yeti.
Yeti the Yeti's funny. I kind of like Yeti the Yeti.
But yeah, that's what we think. Maybe you guys can give some comments.
Let us know in the comments below which one you guys want. Give us even in the comments your power ranking for the top 6 of this Utah name. Let me know if there's any names that were trademarked that didn't end up being voted in that you believe were snubbed. And With that being said, I mean,
Okay.
I've said my piece. Joey,
I mean,
up with or?
last thing was just the jersey design, and I think for me, if anything, it's got to be something to do with mountain ranges and a little bit of weather action and the Yeti in the middle.
Give me your colorway. I guess that's our final thing.
I like a blue with a navy, like the powder blue with the navy. I think you could do white, powder blue, and purple, dark purple.
I want purple. I think purple needs to come
Jared's
back.
a purple stan.
It's not even my favorite color, but when it comes to hockey, like there's too many blue jerseys.
I'm sorry, the jersey, one of my favorite jerseys of all time are the LA Kings Lakers jerseys with the yellow and purple. They're so nice.
Was that a Laker? No, that wasn't like a Lakers so, but that was their jerseys for like decades.
Okay, well, it looks like that's what I would compare it to in the modern sports world. Those were my
LA Kings. Let's see if they had that from day one. Yeah, they had purple from day one.
And with like the purple like crown, those were sick. Those were cool.
Not purple. They're not gonna be purple, but that specific crown is supposedly like they're basing the remake of the LA Kings jersey off of that crown. Because we haven't talked about this yet. So the Anaheim Ducks and the LA Kings are getting jersey rebrands for next year. One I am really sad about though, supposedly not next year, but the year after, the Minnesota Wild are getting a rebrand.
I like the Wild's jersey.
It's my favorite jersey and my favorite logo in the entire NHL.
And their reverse retros are nice too, I think.
Well, that's what's going to become. They're going to North Stars. It's going to be they're taking out not navy, but like the forest green and making it just like subway colors, which like
it's too. I don't know.
It's too clean. You're wild.
It's kind of like
Minnesota
Dallas.
Wild. Yes, it's very similar to Dallas, and in my opinion, like again, I wanted gold and green to make a comeback. Gold and green is classic NHL colors. The Swarm would have worked to bring back that colorway. The answer was not switching the Minnesota Wild. Like the Minnesota Wild's forest green for a forest-themed jersey, it's perfect. It's actually one of the best
bear
decisions.
with the trees, like
I think they're gonna keep the logo, but I think they're just gonna literally like make the reverse retro, like the white and the green version, their full time, which is like I think that color was sick. Like having the forest green and the red, I think was sick.
Well, anyways, I think
I'm gonna say my colorway. So I've shown you already on my phone, and Joey, I'm gonna send it over to you so you could put those images up there on the thing. I like the idea of doing like a massive Yeti as the logo. If you're going with the Utah Yeti, you're not doing like what Seattle did. Like, I'm sorry, I get the Metropolitan throwback, but if you have a name like the Seattle Kraken, how are you now about to be 4 years into your existence and you still just have an S as your logo? You still have not gotten into doing like a Kraken as your logo. Massive missed opportunity there.
They wanted to keep it clean cut, which I kind of get, but at the same time, they had a lot more to work with.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, like Utah, you are trying to get people to fall in love with this brand. Go with the Utah logo. So it has to be a Utah logo. And then I want purple to be the base color. Yeah. I want powder blue and navy blue to be the side colors. And interestingly, I don't want white as the additional like complementary color. I want like a silver. Silver or gray. So silver, like call it silver, powder blue, navy blue, and purple.
See, there's nothing like it.
It's original.
It's a good thing.
And again, I made that using AI, and it turned out sick. It turned out really damn cool. It looks like the gray of the mountains. It looks like the purple of like it's very cool colors. It's like a purple and frosty blue. I think it's perfect. Utah Yeti is what needs to happen, and that's how I want it to look.
We're in agreement on that. Definitely.
That being said, are we ready to rock and roll?
I think we're ready to wrap it up. Yeah, we have the Stanley Cup Game 4 in Edmonton tomorrow night, so that should be interesting. And
Edmonton, my condolences. Even though it's funny enough prediction, I actually think Edmonton's going to win this last game, and then it goes back to Florida, and I think Florida's going to win it on home ice.
I think it's sad though. It's the end. It's the end. Like we said that like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, we said the beginning of the end is near, and now we are like actually at not just the beginning. We're at the end.
I'm literally gonna get seasonal affective disorder, but not because of the seasons, because of the hockey season.
That season. You remember those Scotiabank ads? fifth season.
What is that? Oh, hockey season.
No,
Yes.
during the playoffs in like 2016 or something. There's
That's
the
so
same
stupid.
PK Subban commercial with like it was like Canadians live for the fifth season, but it went on repeat. It was one of those commercials that were like, hey, we get it. We've seen this every single commercial break.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming to this episode. Hopefully, I mean, we just because hockey season is ending, it doesn't mean we're going to be ending this podcast. Free agency starts July 7th, which is less than a month away, which is kind of crazy. There's already been some.
Wait, July 7th or July 1st?
July 1st. I don't know why I said 7th. I don't know why I said 7th.
I had to make sure because I'm like, I think I'm working that day. I thought that was like free agency day.
Oh yeah, I haven't even looked yet. But yeah, so we're not done. And obviously we're gonna have to unpack whatever happens in the next, week or so. But yes, condolences to the Oilers and the rest of Canada. Sorry.
Unless we'll see.
Unless Connor McDavid gets to hoist the cup and
hands it off to Stuart Skinner.
Yes.
That being said, I think we're ready to rock and roll. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 4, Oil Spill. Take care, and thank you so much for watching.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.